natural gait pattern is. Bottom of the shoe. Correct. So if you especially are runners, putting several miles onto their shoe, if you're doing evaluation, have them bring their shoe in and see where the actual wear pattern is on their tennis shoes, running shoes, even walking shoes. So if they wear the same pair of shoes over and over again during the day, they go ahead and grab those shoes and try and take a look at them to see where their wear pattern is. Okay. Sometimes it gets a little difficult now with shoes that they wear day to day. More people are wearing, have 20 pairs of shoes. Okay, and I can't say anything because I wear different kind of shoes about every day too. So to try and see the actual wear, it might even take a while for more of that natural wear to come up and see it on that shoe. But eventually we get to our runners or whatever shoe they're wearing in their activity, then try and look at it so you can see where their natural wear pattern will be. Okay, so that would be a little bit more indication. So if all of a sudden the entire outside of their foot is completely worn down, but nothing else is, then they're either heel striking too much or they're doing too much of supination. Okay, and the same thing, if their wear pattern is more going on to the entire length of that medial side of the foot, you get a little bit of an overpronator. Okay, so then we have to start figuring out how we're going to fix those. Okay, so I'm going to have one person up here, stop the shoe off. Just one, and then we're going to be laying on your stomach with your foot hanging off the table. Also, I can take them out. Okay. So one other easier way or better way, or you slide back just a little bit funny, to be able to find what kind of position there is, you have to find sub-tailored neutral. I don't know if you'll be able to see. Do you want to change the camera, maybe? Oh, that actually is going to look pretty good. So we need to find sub-tailored neutral. So obviously thinking about anatomy, we have our calcaneus, it's easy to relax. We have our calcaneus in the back, our talus sits on top of our calcaneus, and then our tibia sits on top of our talus. So we're looking for a subtalar neutral. Okay, so the easiest area is be able to go in from the anterior side, kind of be, you find your malleolus, and then come more anterior. If you want to get down on this level, what you're going to do is you're going to shift them inversion and eversionly, so you can feel inside there and feel an equal pressure of that talus on both sides, on your medial side and back on your lateral side. That kind of makes sense. You're really going to have to push your fingers up into some of those grooves. Take your other hand and either turn them invert, evert, so you find a nice equal pressure between both of these other fingers. Okay, so that's subtalar neutral, and then all of a sudden you're going to push them into slight plantar flexion. That's basically going to hold them into that subtalar neutral position. Okay, so from here, then you're going to look to see where they are. So I'm going to take my fingers off of this. So you're going to look at where, especially where metatarsals are, and where your calcaneus is sitting. And actually, I forgot to mark. We'll just use a dry erase marker. It'll come off better. So you also want to try and start, before you start this, you want to start mark your landmarks. So you're going to find out where that musculature first turns into your tendon. So you're going to make a little mark there. You're going to find that base of the calcaneus before it turns into the fat pad. And if you really want, you can kind of just find like the very center of that Achilles. Okay. So we're looking at seeing if is this line straight, does it end up being crooked, curved, whatever it might be. So we'll find subtalar neutral again, so make sure you're relaxed. Put in this slight dorsiflexion. Okay, and now we're going to kind of see, do our line or dots kind of line up, or especially looking at this calcaneus one. Is it rotated medially? Is it rotated laterally? Or is it in a nice neutral position? Then I'm going to look down and see where my metatarsals line up. Are my first and second metatarsals higher than where my natural line is here? So that would be a forefoot valve or varus, sorry, okay? Are they lower? And if my fourth and fifth metatarsals up higher, that would be a forefoot valgus, okay? So, but if they're nice evenly, you don't notice any difference, then they actually have a really nice neutral foot, which is kind of rare if that happens. Okay. I would say I moved her around a little bit, so I would say she's probably got some slight forefoot varus positioning, which is the most common that people would end up having anyways. Okay. And then seeing if this guy, if I have any type of rear foot varus or valgus type positioning. Okay. Kind of make sense? A little bit? Okay. So what was I going on? Another way to be able to test your foot to kind of look at what's going on, you're going to have your athlete stand. I'm going to have you just go ahead and stand on the table to check out more positioning and how their footing is. So I'm going to have you turn to face the back of the classroom.
The back of the classroom.
I'm going to have you come towards me. I'm going to have you on a flat surface. Hold this in place with the ball. We'll see if you trust the camera. Okay, and then we can put it into a weight bearing position. Okay. Okay. And from here, you can also try and find some of that subtalar neutral. So same thing, I can kind of come in here and I can kind of take them and have a shift, either inversion or sorry, this would be more inversion, or have her evert, so I can find where that subtalar neutral is in a weight bearing type position, okay? And I can take a look on my lines, kind of line it up that might show a little bit more of that calcaneal, either valgus or varus type positioning. Obviously a little harder to tell about forefoot varus and valgus because we are weight bearing. That's why we do a lot of it in a neutral position or have them not weight bearing, okay? You can also look at their arch pattern, okay? So look at our medial longitudinal arch, okay? Are they flat on the ground? Are they up high? A lot of times I have to try and take my fingers and see how far I can get under. A nice arch, you really want to try to get at least to that second metatarsal. So she's probably got a little bit of a lower arch, okay? So which I kind of demonstrate a little bit on my markers. One is pes cavus and one is pes planus. Who knows which is which? Planus is the flat one. So I always think of pes like you plant your foot, so your arch plants into the ground, underground. Pes cavus, I always think like it's a hole to a cave, so you have extra room to get under. Okay, so then you can also see your partner. Do they have more of a pes planus? Do they have pes cavus? Do they have a little bit of extra room to be able to go in there? Okay. So why don't you partner up quick and do your subtalar neutral to see are they forefoot valgus, forefoot varus, rear foot varus valgus on your guys' proficiency. So our top diagram should be what you guys found. So we put them in a subtalar neutral. I see the majority of you that I probably saw, and which you probably agree to, is most have forefoot varus. Okay, that's where our first and second metatarsals kind of grow up a little bit more. And that's probably more common that we'll end up seeing. So obviously then later in the middle one you can see forefoot valgus. So our fourth and fifth metatarsals are a little bit higher. The third one you're going to see is rear foot valgus. Okay, so you're going to see that calcaneus is going to be rotated from a varus positioning. Okay. Second sheet kind of shows what occurs to you when you go into a weight bearing position. How things from your calcaneus to your talus to your tibia start to shift based on biomechanically how you are situated. Okay. So go ahead and scroll down these names. Okay, right there, up on that one. So this is a reason or ways we can fix it. So if we have forefoot varus, we kind of try and fix it by putting a small little wedge underneath of those first and second metatarsals. Okay, to kind of help support it and put it back into that neutral position where they're at. Because all of a sudden when we weight bear, they go down and it starts shifting everything from our foot and then can have effects all the way up our leg. So all of a sudden your foot movement goes off, your knee positioning gets off, which affects your hips, which then affects your low back, and so and so. Okay, just anatomy, everything's connected, everything affects everything else. So we go to forefoot valgus. They say we put a little bit of wedge underneath that fourth and fifth metatarsal, and then for our rear foot varus, then we have a little bit of a wedge under our calcaneus, or medial calcaneus, sorry. This is super, super basic. Okay, these are super kind of quick, easy fixes to try and see if it'll affect your athlete, however they're lining up. By no means is this clear cut, yep, you put a little wedge in here, fixed. Okay. Some of this stuff does take a little bit extra schooling. Here's take a little bit more evaluation skills, figuring out how to fit or form orthotics to be able to fit into those areas that the athlete needs it. Okay. The next thing on top of it, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So you might see an athlete that has a completely Pez Tavis foot, has no issues, they don't need anything. Someone that has a Pez Planus foot that literally you can't see any spacing underneath those, left in that longitudinal arch. If it doesn't bother them, it doesn't hurt, doesn't affect anything else with their body, leave it alone. Because then you try and start to mess with things. Oh, let's get some inserts on you. Let's kind of raise that arch up a little bit. Just get them off biomechanically, and all of a sudden now they're sitting up higher, which is going to push their knees out and then move their hips around. Then they could all of a sudden have issues. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But you have athletes that start coming in with either foot issues, ankle issues, knee issues. It's always good to start from the bottom up to see what those kind of effects are. Especially our runners, they have patellofemoral pain. Oh, let's look a little bit further down the chain. What's going on with your feet? That could be an effective positioning of your knees when you start running too. Okay, so all of those diagnostic skills then determine what we need to put them in. Okay, so we have our soft orthotics, our semi-rigid orthotics, and then we have rigid orthotics. I know in our test out sheets, I think we just have soft orthotics and semi-rigid. So our semi-rigid and rigid can kind of get thrown into the same type of category on top of it. Soft orthotics, when you think about going to the drugstore, wherever, I'm like, oh, I'm going to get me some Dr. Scholl's. You know, just nice, soft, cushiony things I can slip in just to give me a little bit of added comfort. Those are soft orthotics. So they look just like general orthotics. They're pretty pliable. They twist, they bend, they move. See what we got here. Usually have a little bit of extra cushioning, maybe just to soften up. No true biomechanical changes to them. Does that kind of make sense? Then I guess these I would consider as soft orthotics too, especially something that is truly easily moldable. This you can see has a little added cushion, maybe slightly up through the arch here, a little bit added protection through the arch. I would consider these more of a soft insole. Okay. Then as we kind of move down the line, we get to more of our semi-rigid orthotics. We still have a little bit of bend to them, but they have a little bit of a harder shell. Okay. These are more, these are only like 3/4 inserts, so obviously they don't go all the way through the toes. You can tell they have a little bit of an arch support. Looking through the bottoms though, you don't see any true like wedges or anything to help offset that calcaneus or whatever it might be. Same with these guys, these are by about half inserts, more for people that just want to get a little extra cushioning or padded support underneath of those arches. Okay. Let's go straight into, so then we have rigid orthotics. These are usually made out of something hard, dense, so either a little bit, either steel on there. We have carbon fiber inserts, so they're got a little bend to them, so if you wanted them to be somewhat functional in them, like it has no twist and no rigidity really to it. So some of those, like I think this is still carbon fiber. A little bit more of a metal tin. This guy looks like this is basically an orthoplast mold. So if you're really studying it and you want to make custom make yourself in the ET room, cutting the thing of orthoplast, having somebody weight bear, and that's when you find your tailor neutral while they're in a weight bearing position. So while they're in the neutral position, the orthoplast hardens and forms to their foot. So then when they start running about, the insoles or the hard custom insole is going to hold you while you're into that tailor neutral position of how you should be. Okay. Next, I kind of pulled these out. I can't say I've ever seen them used. They're hanging out in the football AT room. So we just have 1/4 inserts here, but it comes with all of these nice little plastic pieces. I know it's kind of hard to see from there, but they're like little wedges. You can see they're tapered at thin on one side and a little thicker on the other. So when we're talking about finding that tailor neutral, oh, we got a little either forefoot or hindfoot varus or valgus. Then you just take them and you just pop them onto our little inserts, and that gives you that little velvet bonus wedge in there that will hopefully help offset them. Okay. So we got mostly, I think this one is just for hindfoot. So depending on which, if it's varus valgus, there's different sizes. So you can put those higher wedge on whichever side that's actually needed after you do your evaluation. Okay. Then you have a couple of inserts that are, I like to call maybe a hybrid. So these guys are very soft. We don't really have anything in the heel, but we have a steel plate towards the toe. What would be instances why we would want something like this? With an injury we talked about that we don't want movement of our toes. Anyone remember?
Oh,
Turf toe. Yep. So we have turf toe. Instead of putting them in some type of tape, we just get some type of orthotic, slide it into their shoe, so then we have a nice hard tough surface, so they don't get that extra bending. So even though we're talking about biomechanical errors of how our foot are set up, we can still use inserts for other injuries type of thing. We've got somebody that's got coming back from a stress fracture. We want them in a hard sole shoe, or we don't want them to get a whole lot of mobility in that forefoot. We're going to put them into some type of semi-rigid or rigid orthotic, so they don't have very much motion within that toe. Okay. Here's another one. So this is opposite. So this has our toe has free, but it has more rigidity within our heel and through our midfoot, depending on how much motion you're trying to take away in their either calcaneus movement or within those cuneiforms or cuboid. If you're trying to restrict how much or how little motion that you give them, and you can get something with a little bit more rigidity towards the heel and midfoot. Okay. These are all over-the-counter orthotics. You can also do custom orthotics. Much more expensive, but they last a lot longer. Even, the only thing is, even like the carbon fiber inserts aren't super cheap. These guys cost a little bit of a penny to be able to have. Grace keeps shaking her head at me because I made her wear one this summer / fall. So awful. So she knows the loveliness of having a really stiff sole in your shoe. If you want, after class, you can ask her why I made her wear one. But yeah, these are mostly over the counter. You can go to Walmart, Shields, Dick's, Walgreens, anywhere with a pharmacy, and I know especially like the sporting goods stores have over the counter insoles. If I have somebody I'm suspecting or I test has a little bit of mechanical errors, needs some extra support, I'm probably gonna go send them and have them pick up some type of over the counter inserts first. A little cheaper, but it's gonna find out, oh yeah, these feel really good. And I like having an insert, I have liking the support, but all of a sudden, a month or 2 months later, they break down and they're worthless. Okay, let's talk about actually going and getting set up for some custom inserts so that they're gonna last you a lot longer. It'll last you through the season. Because most of the times you have athletes that need inserts or even over the counter, they're gonna be wearing them throughout the day and they're gonna be wearing them during their sport. So they're gonna get a lot of wear and tear on them throughout all of those activities. Like I said, over the counter might not hold up very well for very long. So then discuss the option of going and getting a custom inserts. Because then they can mold them and fit them a lot better to whatever their situation or immobility or extra mobility might be within that foot. Okay. Questions about inserts? Kind of brief, quick overview about inserts. Like I said, it's really using your evaluative skills to find out what's actually causing the root of the issue. Is it in their foot? Is it in their knee? Is it both? One causing the other, whatever it might be. Whatever positioning their foot actually is mechanically, does it need to be fixed or does it not need to be fixed? So that'll come. but this is a good just overview about what you can do to help fix it. Okay. I think our next one we just go over is a night splint. So these are our night splints. This is an over-the-counter one. We have purchased a couple. If you ever come into the AC room, above our big cabinets, we have a whole box of them. They're basically all in their plastic wrapping because we don't typically set them out very often. Why would you want to place somebody into a dorsiflex or neutral position while they sleep? You can think why. Muscle, okay. So what are we doing to the muscle when we're placed in here? Imagine this is my foot. What was that?
Stretching out the Achilles and the plantar fascia.
So we're stretching, right? So we're placing in the stretch position, primarily used for plantar fascia. Not so much of Achilles. If you ever have an Achilles tear or Achilles injury, you're going to be placed more into a plantar flex position, especially after a surgery. You don't want to stretch it out after they surgery it, but primarily for plantar fasciitis. One of the most common complaints about athletes with plantar fasciitis that it hurts the worst in the morning when they get up and they step out of bed. Why is that?
Because they're sleeping like this all night.
Yep, so they are sleeping in a relaxed position, so their foot is kind of dangling, and the fascia underneath is in a nice relaxed position. First thing you do when you step up in the morning is you stretch that out. So that's why it always hurts so bad in the morning. So what we're doing is we're putting it in a stretched position while we are sleeping at night. And even sleeping in this is not super comfortable, right? And say most people are like, relax, you're curled up as much as you can. But having this board stuck on your foot is not very, not comfortable at all. So the only thing is you get a little compliance issues if you're trying to help, trying to athletes home to sleep in this kind of thing. Will they actually do it if they want to get better? Yes. But half the times in the middle of the night, they're sick of it, they rip it off, throw it off to the side just so they can get a good night's sleep. So that's one of the only difficulties with putting people in night splints. The second one is the last one I know is a custom night splint. I thought we had one, but I couldn't find it. Basically, you either take your casting materials or you take an orthoplast and make a mold to the back of your foot. So you mold a little bit up your calf, down into your foot, put a little bit of foam padding stuff in there to make it comfortable. You can see it's not a true neutral position, but we do have a little bit extra of a dorsiflexion on it. So we're not in a neutral, but we do have a little extra dorsiflexion with it. Can you kind of see that? So we don't want them up here because then too much of a stretch, then they're really not going to be able to sleep at night. But you want to get just enough of a good angle. So especially when you're making your custom molds, be very careful about how far into that dorsiflex position that you're putting them. Or if you don't have a night splint, you don't have materials to create a custom splint, you can take your good old buddy, the Ace Wrap. Straight legs, go back just a little bit. Okay. So once again, we don't want them into, I forgot, you don't have those anyways. So obviously you don't want them into full dorsiflexion, but you have a little bit in there. So I want you to hold this position. Okay, so don't move it. So then we can take our Ace Wrap, create an X pattern over top the ankle, over the foot, and we can hold them in as much of that position as we want to. Yep. This guy's a little long for this, but okay, now you can relax. Okay, so it still holds them into somewhat of a dorsiflex position. So if you have no money, if your athletes have no money, but you have a nice Ace Wrap, you can teach them how to be able to do this on their own. But thing is, those like when we do our Ace Wrap and horseshoe for swelling, make sure you don't get too tight that it cuts off circulation. The same thing, they're gonna wake up in the middle of the night and just rip it off because they either can't feel their toes because they're either too far up or they wrap their Ace Wrap too tight. So good old quick cheap solution for you. Questions? So if you want, you guys can practice a little bit of putting either try on the next splint. I only brought one.